Hello and welcome. I am so excited for today's guest. I have JP Horgan. He is helping people unbound boundaries, making dreams into a reality. He coaches individuals, and businesses. He's the host of the Phase 4 podcast that I have been on, and it is an amazing podcast, so go check that out. And he's living his purpose. I didn't get his exact birth time, but he gave me his birth date, and I looked up his cross in the human design. And this is the cross of the unexpected. This is somebody that has this incredible amount of leadership that can speak into existence, like how to be leaders and speak to leaders and create leaders. But it's also combined with really cool gifts of being really caring and deeply purposeful. So it's like, what is of purpose? Why are we here? What are the deeper questions? And then it combines it with this ability to dream and try to figure out how to bring these dreams into reality. And so taking that cross of the unexpected, he is totally living his purpose. And I just love seeing that. Welcome to the show, JP.
Yeah, hi, thank you. That's so beautiful. Such a great introduction. And everything stems from leadership, like you said off the top. So there's caring and purpose. And I think the best leaders are good at just letting other people develop their own skills. I don't need to tell you how to do it. You already know how to do it, and you do it your way. And then we all bring it together. And that's how you turn dreams to reality. So, yeah, thank you for that introduction.
You're welcome. I'm so excited to get into all of the amazing, like even when I was on your podcast, you had, really brilliant like quotes and things to bring to every part of the conversation. So I know you're just loaded with these really, really helpful ways of looking and bringing these leaders into our everyday. But I kind of want to know how you got started on this, because I don't know anything about your background. And, were you always into this kind of stuff, or was there something that happened that you had to kind of overcome or switch, or give me the story?
Yeah, I guess the short version would be that I used to have a fixed mindset forever, and I developed a growth mindset. And then that changed my life. Reading books, like you said, all those quotes, and just the knowledge that you can just rewire your brain and go towards whatever you want. And I've been actually just doing this intentionally, just designing it and going in different categories, like literally making it up just to prove, like, look, we can start wherever we are and make it up. But what happened to me? About 15 years ago, I kept getting hurt at work. So I would go and I would get x-rays, and they would say nothing's wrong. And I would keep going back every 3 months or so. And we found out eventually that I had a benign tumor in my spine. And so the doctors did surgery, but they couldn't scrape any closer than they could, or than they did. Otherwise, they said your spine, you might not be able to walk. So I tried radiation, I tried all these other things, and nothing seemed to work. I probably tried about 20 different modalities, and nothing would work. And of course, when you go in, they give you one pill for pain and another pill for something else. And eventually I found myself on 33 pills a day. 4 times a day, I would end up taking 9 here and 9 there. And it was like 33 pills a day. And even as my son was 5 and I was turning 40, I found myself in a mobility scooter, just in chronic pain all day. I couldn't laugh, breathe, cough, or sneeze without pain. But when my son did turn 5 that year, I knew I was turning 40 as well. And I said, I am not doing this for the rest of my life. And so that decision right there is the beginning of a huge transformation from a caterpillar to a butterfly. And the quote that goes with that one is the Einstein quote, where he says, the most important decision you'll make is whether you believe you live in a friendly or a hostile universe. And up until that point, I thought I was living in a hostile universe. And once I realized that it was a belief and a decision that we get to decide. So I switched that up, and eventually I slowly came down off the pills. And then just a miracles started happening left, right, and center. And it seems, I feel like maybe I was really low on the vibrational spectrum, if you will. So I don't know if that's how come I feel like I'm skyrocketing so far ahead, but my growth has been like exponential isn't even the right word.
Yeah, that is amazing, because making that decision, I was just listening to Sean Stevenson. I don't know if you've ever listened to him, but he had a degenerative spinal injury, and he was told that he would, be hurt or sick or degenerative for the rest of his life, right? And so then he asked the doctors, and they said there was nothing he could do. And he just kept asking questions. And finally he found food as a way of medicine. But he finally had to decide that he was going to get better, right? He said that I had to decide that I was going to get better. And it was like all of the doors started opening to show you how to get better. And that's the same thing. And I think about that all the time. It's like, even growing your business, it's sometimes I'm, what am I doing here? Why am I doing the things I'm doing? But sometimes you realize that you did not make the decision to really like all in, I'm here, like it's just that one little point, and then the next step will appear.
Yeah, for sure. That's why I love the name of my company is the Next Steps Academy, because now with the growth mindset, I'm always looking for the next step. And yeah, sometimes we do have to go that low in order to get that. There's two philosophies in like Zen Buddhism called Kensho and Satori. And Kensho is that where you have to go so low, something happens. For me, it was a dark night of a soul that lasted a decade. But as the saying goes, the darkest hour is right before the dawn. And now we're here in the dawn. And then the other one is Satori. That's more like a aha moment where it just comes to you. Some kids get it when they're 7. I'm going to be a soccer player. I'm going to be an artist, and they know exactly what their whole life will look like. That wasn't like that for me, but I'm grateful that it turned out the way it did.
Something that always fascinates me too is when I'm looking at astrology charts, I could probably find it in your chart the moment that maybe your progressed sun moved into another sign, and it was like it was aligned. So at birth, you could literally see what year you were supposed to wake up, what year you were supposed to have these things happen. And when we can look at it from that lens, we know that every struggle we went through was like meant for us, right? I mean, I had a dark night of the soul too, where I couldn't leave my house. I panic attacks constantly, crying in a bathtub, listening to Marianne Williamson's From Tears to Triumph over and over and over again, learning how to tap, learning how to meditate, learning all of the things that brought me to this moment. And it's like, now you wouldn't, change that for the world. And you can have empathy for the people that are in maybe that lower place and struggling.
Yeah, for sure. How did you get out of it? Did something happen? Was yours Kensho or Satori when it actually came?
It was definitely both. So yeah, there was a moment that I decided I wasn't going to, this was not my story. And then I took one step at a time. I always think about, I can't remember. I'm not as good with quotes as you, but that like take one step and the next will appear. I always think about that because it really does feel like you're taking, you're in the temple, Indiana Jones, the Temple of Doom, and you're taking that step that feels like you're going to walk off a cliff, and it's there, right? So it was when I started to really trust and surrender and understand that I didn't have to see the full picture to take one step. That's when I really started to change.
Yeah, that's one of my philosophies. Go low, go slow. And it's the thing that's crazy about it. It seems sometimes like you're going too slow, but after 2 months, 3 months, 6 months, a year, you look back and go, wow, I did that so fast. I'll give you the quote you're talking about. It's by MLK. And then I'll tell you an example of that going faster than you think. But the MLK quote you're talking about is Martin Luther King Jr. He says, take the first step in faith. You don't have to see the whole staircase. Just take the first step. And it's true. It's because the next steps reveal themselves as you go. And a part of that is that, let's say you have a dream that you want to achieve in 5 years. Well, the person you are today and the person you'll be in 3 years is totally different. And so you have to take the steps to get there. You can't just go straight there. And then as you move along, you become the other person who can do that 5 or 10 year, whatever dream it is. Now, the example, so 33 pills a day for almost a decade. Finally, I woke up. And then I started like just walking and exercising. I found nature was beautiful, and all these things that I never noticed that were always there started changing. That's because the pills mask my perception of the world and my soul. But now this year, so I was in a mobility scooter like 5 years ago. This year I ran 2 marathons, 42.2 kilometers, 26.2 miles. And I did it twice. And the first time it took me 4 months to do it. I didn't know what I was doing. I never did it before. But because of learning all the tools, because of the go low, go slow consistency, the second one, when I started it, I was already halfway there. It only took me 2 months. And my actual starting point was a half marathon, where the first one, my starting point was trying to walk around in the snow for an hour in January.
I love that example, because maybe even from the point that you were, you couldn't imagine what you've accomplished. Like, you can't even hardly see yourself there. And so it's like taking each step at a time. And yeah, even the vibrationally, I've been seeing clients, but I haven't been seeing massive amount of like holding space for large groups yet. Right. And I'm always just reminded that each step that I'm taking is raising my vibration to be able to hold space for more and more people, so that I can hold space for that group, because I couldn't just snap my fingers and be vibrationally available to hold that kind of space. And so even things like that, you can't just jump into what you want to do. You have to build that energy up, take all those steps.
Yeah. The universe you can give your order, right? But the universe is going to need a minute to cook it up. And so there's people you got to meet, and there's experiences and roads that you have to go down, and it can't just happen overnight because, yeah, the universe needs a bit of time to get everything in order to make your life that you desire.
Yeah. Yeah. And I even look at the cycles in astrology, because there's a 30-year cycle that happens, that it's like we can look at a month, right? So a month, the moon moves around the whole zodiac in 1 month. And so we have our new moon where we're planting our seeds, and our full moon where we're having our harvest. But there's also these cycles that take 30 years, and these cycles that and so when you look at it in that span, it's like every single doing the cycle every month is growing you to that cycle every year, that's growing you to that 30-year cycle. And you just have to keep doing the work. You have to keep showing up every single day and growing that and tending that garden. I love the garden analogy, or the ordering your food analogy, because both of them mean that you plant your seed or you order your food, and then you don't go back there in the kitchen or, like look under the soil, like, where's my plants? You put them down and you tend to it, but you let it go, because the action, you once you've done your part, there's also places that you have to let other people do their parts, or the universe orchestrate for you.
100%. When I did those marathons, I was doing it to prove. So I also, now that part of the way I give back is that I facilitate mental health groups, because when I was going through all that, there was no mental health groups. I was on Zoom, but there was no Zoom like the way it is now. And there was nowhere to talk to anyone, and it just definitely was isolated. So, but part of what I try to bring to the group is like, if we just go low, go slow, and do consistent steps, small steps. And I'll tell someone, like, start with 1 minute on a treadmill, and they laugh, and they're like, I did 10. I'm like, okay, but only do 1, because you might do 10 for 3 or 4 days, but you're not going to keep it up. But if we just go 1, add 1 every day, 2, after a month, you're at 30, right? So the reason I ran those marathons, it was for me, but it was also for that group, especially too. I know what it's like to have a fixed mindset and a growth mindset. They were stuck, a lot of them, in the fixed mindset. Like, this is my life. It's never changing and I'm screwed. And I'm like, that's not true. And we can prove it, right? Today is January 1st. I don't think I can run a marathon, but I know I can take the steps in order to do it. And eventually I'll be able to do it. Today on January 1st, I'm not the type of person, I haven't done the work like you're talking about to do that. But I know if I put in the work now, by the time that the marathon rolls around, I'll be the type of person who can do it. So I learned 10 things from that. Well, I learned a bunch of things, but I learned 10 rules that are almost applicable to life. And things like knowledge is power, show up even if you don't feel like it. And that's the part you're talking about, is that you have to come back, and you're going to have bad days. There's ebbs and flows, especially you're talking a little about business. You probably see right now, this time of year, it's ebbs and flows even more. And you're going to have bad days, but there's no other option than to keep back. And if I could, I would love to tell a little story from a book called Think and Grow Rich.
Oh, I love that book. Yes, please.
All right. So there's this guy, and it's like back in the 1800s during the gold rush, and he sells everything and he raises all this money to go and look for gold, and he finds gold, and he's like happy and he's going to be rich. And then all of a sudden the gold that he found dries up in the ground. He can't find it anymore. So he sells all of his stuff to some junk trash collector. And the trash collector had no idea what to do, but he hired an engineer to come in and survey the land. So where the first guy gave up and sold everything, he was only 3 feet away from where the gold was. And so he gave up 3 feet short of, like, boom, there's everything, right? And so this is a metaphor for life. Don't give up on your dreams or your hopes, because you're that close. You don't know what's going to be right around the corner. And I find also, I don't know about you, but especially in the low points and the dark times, there's a part there where you're shedding layers so that you can get ready to do the next level. And I find that more and more that it happens where, like, okay, when I think it's bad, really, it means it's about to be good again soon. So I thought I would just share that.
Yeah, I love that. I always feel like there's people go through kind of extremes where they maybe hold on too tightly to things that aren't good for them, right? Like, won't let something go. They keep doing it over and over and over again, even if it's not working. But then they give up right before the good stuff if they're trying to create a new life, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's something where you can plan it out. I don't know when this is going to air, but are we this year?
Yeah.
So as we're heading into next year, here's the thing. I have a tool called the N90 Protocol. It's free on my website. I'll share that with your listeners. But the N90 Protocol, it means next 90. And so what you do, you write 4 things that you really want to accomplish, or goals, anything. It could be diet, health, if you want to meditate, if you want to travel somewhere, all these things. And then you rank them in order, 1, 2, 3, 4, which is the most important. With the most important one, that's the only one you focus on for 90 days. And then you add in another second one on the list 90 days later. So after 6 months, you're doing whatever was first. Let's say it's journaling. Now, after 6 months, you're doing journaling and you've added in the second one. Now, the third quarter of the year, you add in the third one. And you have, by the end of the year, you have all 4 of these things in, and one of them locked in for a year. And that right there will transform your life. So as we're in the middle of the holiday season, but as we're coming towards 2024, maybe this is a good tool to set some goals of where you want to head.
Yeah, no, I would definitely suggest everybody I'll put the link in the show notes. Go to that link. It's just a Google document anybody can download, and it's really, really perfect for planning out how you're going to make these changes over the next year. So thank you so much for that. I also would love to point to another free resource that you have. I know that we talked about on your podcast, and I always talk about this, is that I really wanted to change my life, but I looked around and nobody around me was like really making any shifts or doing anything that they wanted to do. And so I had read that you are the the quote, the five people.
Yeah, Jim Rohn, he says that you become the 5 people you hang around with the most.
Yeah. And so I took that to heart, and I looked around and I was like, oh no, how do I get there? And then for me, it was that I submersed myself into podcasts, right? I found really powerful podcasts with people that were doing and being who I wanted to do and be. And so that was how I surrounded myself. And then you have something called My5 that kind of incorporates this, correct?
Yeah, so it's a tool, and that was the idea. Was right around the beginning of COVID, I saw people isolated right away, and just even the divisions between friends, and it was crazy. But I knew people were isolating. I knew it wasn't a good time, but I also knew that we had time that we can come and go inside and develop ourselves. So the idea behind My5 is that you spend 1 hour a day working on yourself, and My5 is 5 different mentors or guides. It could be a subject. So if you want to learn about cooking, that could be one of your 5. If you want to learn about spirituality, maybe you could read the Bible or a book about the Dalai Lama. If you want to learn about apartheid, you read a book about Nelson Mandela, all these kind of things. So whatever area you want to go to, you pick 5 areas, you spend 12 minutes a day with 5 mentors, maybe watching YouTube videos. It could be anything, a TED Talk. And then that way, within 1 hour, you've up leveled 5 different categories in your life. So if you do this for a month, I like 3 months. For me, I'm a 3-month guy. It's almost like a month we can form some habits, but 3 months gives you the perfect amount of time to realize if you actually like it or not, especially because there's a dip that happens around the 4th week or 5th week where like you might start journaling and love it, but then you don't like it. And that's natural. But the 3 months gives you enough time that you can do it. So this tool is just 5 days a week, Monday to Friday. I do it an hour in the morning, 12 minutes here, there, whatever, just learning new stuff and soaking up information. Because one of the things I learned in the marathon was knowledge is power.
Yes. So I hear a lot, and there's even a book now that's called Do the Work, right? Do the work, do the work, do the work. Not a lot of people really talk about what the work looks like. What does the work look like to you? Like what does a consistent doing the work look like for you?
I'm trying to find this piece of paper I have somewhere. Okay, so it started out as a monthly calendar, and I call it a graph chart. You can call it whatever, but it was just I got like different colored markers, and I would just on Monday I started with 6 categories, maybe even 3, and then I eventually got up to 12, but it would be like journaling, meditation, push-ups, whatever. And then you give yourself a color for each of those words, and then you just make a graph chart inside the day. It's kind of cool. I wish I could find it. But anyway, then you start filling out these graph charts and you start creating the evidence in your own life and you see it. And now I do it on my phone, and I have like a Evernote. You could do it in anything, a Google Doc, any note. And I just have a list of 10 almost non-negotiables that I do every day. And so you see the check marks.
Yeah.
So I just check them off as I go. And then even the red, like if you don't do something, you put an X. So let's just say this right now, my 10 things are like, okay, gratitude, affirmations, visualizations, meditation, journaling, push-ups, sit-ups, vitamins, reading, nature and exercise I put together, fasting, and then I have a certain smoothie every day, and then I put whatever I eat for dinner in there as well. But just having these things, so then what happens, your brain gets a hit of dopamine every time you put a check mark. And alternatively, and you start building the evidence, right? So you might be at a point, and there's different levels to it. So if you're at a point where you're just beginning, and you might miss doing your meditation 3 days in a row, or you might miss journaling 3 days in a row. It's really easy to beat yourself up at that point and say, I suck. But if you have an entire month where you're like, oh, you know what? I did 27 out of 30 and I missed the last 3 because whatever, I had some emergency to take, right? Then it's like, okay, I can reframe this. What happens over time is you build a consistency, you build the evidence, which builds your confidence, and it's not based on what other people are doing, and you're not looking at other people, you're looking at your own results. But it's important to do those check marks and to do the X's. Another thing, what happens with the X's is you're going to start not liking to see X's, and you're going to make sure you don't get 2 X's in a row. Because as we learned from James Clear in the book Atomic Habits, 2 times in a row of doing something is a new habit.
I love that so much. I'm somebody that has to stack habits. That's what I liked about that book, because in human design, I'm a manifesting generator, which means that like I like to get there faster, right? I like to sometimes I like to skip steps, go to the good stuff, and then I have to go back and relearn it, which is a bad habit of manifesting generators. But I do love stacking habits. So I love to do my red light, but I don't always sit down and do my red light every day unless I have habit stacking. I'm going to do breath work while I do my red light, or I'm going to blow dry
What's
my
a red light?
hair. So I have this near and far infrared light that it's really good for your circadian rhythm and your cellular, like all helping you up level your cellular function, but it's also really good for your skin. So anybody that's a little bit into vanity, like most women at
They
40
have
like
one of
me.
they have it at the gym. It gets rid of scars as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's pain relief, wrinkles, scarring, all of that kind of surface level, but it really goes in deep, so it really helps your cellular um, system as well. So I like to do it, but it's like, okay, am I going to sit here for 15 minutes? Okay, but if I'm going to blow dry my hair anyways, and I'm going to do my breath work, now I've habit stacked. So I've double the reason to sit there and do my red light. Or I'm brushing my teeth, I'll do some squats because I'm already standing there at the sink brushing my teeth. So I might as well do some squats. So I love to like habit stack a lot.
Yeah, it's important. It just makes it easier too, especially like if that list of 10, there's some of them I can do at the same time. So um every day when I wake up, the first one I do gratitude, affirmations, and visualizations all at the same time. Like obviously not at the exact same time, but in that 5 minute, 10 minute time frame. Push-ups, sit-ups, I just do them back to back, and then it just locks it in. There's something called link houses. Like you see all these new neighborhoods where it's like a new subdevelopment and it's all cookie cutter homes, but sometimes you'll see there's only a little bit of room between the houses, and other ones there's the ones that there's only a bit of room that you can walk between. They're linked by concrete underneath the ground. And what happens is that when they pour the concrete for this house and then they pour the concrete for this house, they pour a slab in between that connects them, and what it does, it pulls them together and makes them actually stronger. And so that's what habit stacking, that's kind of what I think of when habit stacking. You're just doing two of them at the same time, which just locks it in even stronger.
Yeah. No, I love that so much. I think this is going to be a really great episode for going into the new year. I just love to hear even how you do you refocus during the new year, or how do you start fresh, or reprioritize what you're working on?
Yeah, I kind of do that in December. I'll obviously, if I think of projects I want to work on next year, I'll do that any time of the year, write it down. But in December, I kind of go within. I'll take time for myself. I'll go to a hotel, or I'll just go to a different environment. And I bring some of these books with me that I've have highlighted, Think and Grow Rich, and just kind of remind myself, where am I going? What's the focus? So I have a 5 year, 10 year, 20 year plan, all that. But definitely in December, I go within and I kind of just mark out my quarters, what do I have to do and where do I want to go and what's going to happen. And some things can't happen. I think we talked earlier, just that you become a different person along the way. So let's say, and so what I do, I separate it also into body, mind, spirit, and finance goals, 4 categories. And what do I want to achieve? Different writing books, art projects, whatever it is. Next year, I'm doing 5 virtual summits. And a new goal for marathon is to do a half marathon, but in a certain time. And so that one will be my first year. And so then in the end of the year, I want to do a full marathon, but I already know that I can separate them in quarters, so it's not overwhelming. And so once you start writing things down, then what happens, you can see it and place it in perspective. And then you have all these lots of things you want to do, but it's not as overwhelming. With the 5 summits, for example, if I tried to do all 5 of them at one time, it would be just like, but what I did, I started one and kind of got that rolling along. And now the second one comes and it follows the same example. And you kind of pushing all these balls around. But yeah, I'll definitely will get quiet. That's the biggest thing, I think, is ask questions, journal, get quiet, change your environment, because it's hard to make it's hard to change your reality. And this might be taken the wrong way, so I have to be careful. But if you're showing up the same way all the time, depending on the person, yeah, obviously you can change it, but it's hard to see new things. So just by changing your environment for that time, getting quiet, go to a hotel or somewhere else, you can quiet out the distractions, shut out social media, and just the normal everyday routine that we do that mostly is automated already. So by doing that, you're sparking your own curiosity and passion, and you don't even realize it, but it's just intentional too, right? Like you're going into this, I like to just rent a hotel room and do it there, but you're going into this space and you're being very intentional, planning out, this is what I'm going to do. This is where I want to go. Put in your commitments. One thing with schedules is I find people don't stick to schedules because they get overwhelmed by their own schedule that they made. Now, we all have certain commitments, sure, but scheduling fun things on your schedule. I schedule in time in nature, time to go to the park, time to exercise, and I find by doing the writing it down, things happen, but sometimes they happen in an even more magical way than you can imagine.
Yeah. I want to give a little bit of individualization to this. When I look at through the lens of human design or astrology, some of the things that I think about is somebody could look at their chart and see, are they like a very strong in fixed things, right? You have Scorpio sun, so you fixed, right? So taking yourself, we have two reasons that this is important. One is where you're at, right? We show up a certain way in a certain where the planets are hitting our chart. So you go and travel, that can make a huge difference, right? We know that we're drawn to a certain area or a certain place. That can change the way we show up, but also being a fixed sign or a fixed, having a lot of fixed planets in your chart, changing the environment is going to help change the way that you're looking at things, right? So I can see that being super helpful. Now, if you're a cardinal, you have a lot of cardinal. This is just like, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it, let's do it. Maybe leaning even more on that kind of unplugging nature of what you're saying, because the cardinal just wants to start things, right? It just wants to start things. Sometimes it gets too far ahead of just starting, and it doesn't sit back and see the goals and the bigger things. And then when we look at mutable signs, I'm almost all mutable, if anybody can't tell, with my all over the place nature. But mutable, I have to be very, very careful of who I'm around, right? So when I show up and I'm around, like the 5 people that I want to be around, or I'm setting my intention to be in Tony Robbins and Dave Asprey and these kinds of people's auras, or listening to them, right? Then that is helping me kind of get into that mode, or going wherever, like you're talking about, and reading these books and immersing myself. But at the same time, I will go just for a weekend to like a sports thing with regular people with my kids. And all of a sudden, all my goals are so far away, because mutable people are so easily influenced by the people they're around, right? And so it's really important to know who you are, because you got some fixed, like you said, you're learning growth mindset, but you've got some fixed planets, I can tell. And it's like, so if you take yourself out of that environment and go into another environment, it's giving you the ability to shift, but you're still always very strong, right? And if we're looking at maybe other ways that people show up depending on their charts, it's like being aware of that is super important.
Yeah. I'm curious, how do you defend, I don't know if that's the right word, against those energies?
It's a really hard thing. That's why I love trying to help people understand themselves better, because I understand it, a lot of times I would be maybe talking down on myself, because I am so easily, I can see both sides of every issue, right? I can always see, I just have a lot of open energy. And so I have to be very careful to be in my own space, to get really firm on where I'm going and what I'm trying to create. And then sometimes it just feels very hard, right? If I'm away all weekend with people that maybe have no concept of this at all, and they're like, I'll show up on Monday and it takes me all day Monday to get back in my own focus, my own energy, bringing in these leadership people that I need to help me. It's just something that I love that you brought this up so that I could bring this up for people so that they can understand. Looking at your chart, you can pull your chart anywhere and just see, and you can Google mutable cardinal, and see what signs and what planets, and you could just, write it down yourself. You don't have to have any sort of astrology background to just figure out if you have more cardinal, more mutable, or more fixed, and then maybe just be aware of it, right? How do I shake things up if I'm fixed? How do I slow down a little bit if I'm cardinal? How do I really be aware of the people that I'm around if I'm mutable?
Yeah. I think there's a part there where we can curate might be a better word. We can curate our own reality by the things that we're learning and putting into our filter.
Yeah.
So if you're watching like CNN, or maybe not that channel, but any news that's just bad and horrible, then you're going to feel like crap, but it's because you're bringing that into your own awareness. And so
Yeah.
we get to make it up, I think. And like you said, there's different ways to get to it, but the beginning part is the dream.
Yeah.
And everything we see, right? Like the microphone, the picture behind you, all of it was somebody's imagination and dream before it was manifest into a physical thing. So there's the proof.
Yeah, exactly. That's what manifestation has gotten a really, a lot of people are either poo-pooing manifestation or they're all in on it. But really it is, every single thing starts with a thought. Thoughts create feelings. Feelings are the magnetism that make us go and create, or bring things to us. And that's what creates our reality.
Yep.
I love, so what are your favorite, you've done like some certifications, and we talked about Mind Valley a little bit. Can you go into some of the things that some of the tools that you use maybe in your coaching, or what you've used to kind of shift these things for yourself?
Yeah, and this is the gem from the entire thing. So get a pen and paper. So you get a piece of paper and you write 3 categories, 3 columns, right? Like that. And then in one column, you put experiences that you want to have in your life. The next column, you put how do you want to grow? And the third column is how do you want to contribute or give back? And if the sky's the limit and you just fill out that, if you could do, like, forget about the how, but if you could do any of that, how would you do it? What, not how would you do it? What would it look like? And what would you do? And that's the 3 most important questions, which is a tool from Mind Valley. And that's life changing. If you try to do it on a 3 or a 5-year timeline to start, you're going to change your entire life. You're going to figure out everything you want, and you're going to give your brain a target to reach for. So Mind Valley, I'm a certified life coach through Mind Valley, certified business coach through Mind Valley, a certified meditation instructor through Mind Valley. And then on top of that, I have my own courses and workshops that I deliver. So one is a 10-week meditation workshop. And this is what we do. We kind of use this at the beginning of it, that 3 most important questions. And then we learn all the different parts. There's 6 phases: compassion, gratitude, forgiveness, creating your future 3 years out, the perfect day, and then a blessing that kind of ties it all together. So each week we go through one of those stops on the bus, and then by the end we kind of wrap it all, bring it all together, and we've been doing it for about 8 weeks at that time. Another course that I have that I built this summer I'm really proud of was a course called the Artist Tao, and I mixed together the Tao Te Ching and a book called The Artist's Way by Julia Cameron, and it helps to unlock creativity. And so I took the first cohort through that, and it was amazing. And that's a 12-week course with just a beautiful website, lots of resources, book previews, homework, videos, live meditations. And so we'll be doing another one of those in February 2024. A third course that I have is a weekly writers workshop, which will start in January. And this is probably the introduction to the other course. So it's an 8-week course, and it just covers all different areas of writing, from bio, genre. The 4 F's is focus, flow, fine points, and finality. We talk about AI and learn some of the tools that can benefit us in AI. Talk about the hero's journey and wrap up with the artist out. And like I said, that's an intro into the other one. And then what else do we got going on? I do a lot of groups and one-on-one, but personally, I love groups. There's something special when you can bring a group of people together and get vulnerable. I don't know. It's healing for everybody. So that's kind of what I'm up to. I don't know if I answered your question.
Yeah, no, that's perfect. I love, I don't know if you know Lynn McTaggart's work at all, but she wrote a book called The Power of Eight, and she talks about when we bring, and even I think it's in the Bible or something, 2 or more gather, something changes. And so it's like having these people together and yeah, sharing the vulnerabilities and being able to connect to other people. Men are really geared towards dopamine, and women are really geared towards connection, oxytocin. But men need connection and women need dopamine too. So it's like finding these ways to give everybody access to this kind of connection that we kind of lack in today's world, is such a beautiful way to give back, and all of that you've been through, you can really hold space for people. So I love that.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. And yeah, definitely know Lynn McTaggart. She's powerful. Done some coherence meditations where you heal people around the world. Everyone just kind of tunes in at the same time all over the world and sends intention to people. And it is pretty fascinating stuff.
Yeah. She was an investigative reporter, and she's very logical left brain. I would love to see her chart. But she stumbled upon the field, which is kind of, we all have a field around us, and our fields are always intermingling with the larger field. And so we have kind of this whole world going on that we don't really know or pay attention to most of the time. And so bringing your attention to that, they did some really, really cool things, just setting intentions. They all prayed for a city and a part of a city, and the crime rate went down. And it was just like, they've done all of these really incredible they're working with actual universities to make sure that these are like double blind, these studies, and it really can change places, change the world, when people come together with the power of intention.
Yeah, I'm trying to look for one now. So in this book, Becoming Supernatural by Joe Dispenza, I think he might even be doing it with Lynn McTaggart, but there's parts of this book towards the end where case studies of exactly what you're talking about. Some really fascinating things. Like, you can't deny there's an energy world, right? There's the 3D world we're looking at, but you close your eyes, you can disappear into the universe.
Yeah. That's what I focus on a lot more than because I'm very left brain logical myself. I like to understand the how and the why behind everything I do. And so I love learning more about this energy and kind of letting myself be a little bit more right brain and creative, and expanding what's possible for myself as well. I also did the 6-phase meditation. I love Mind Valley, and I forgot all about it until I was talking to you, because I had done it for a while. And then some people are very, very good at doing the same thing over and over again, right? I am not. I am very I'm going to use your tactic though of writing a list and checking things off, but I'm allowed to check them off in whatever order I want, because Sometimes I like to start my day first thing in the morning with meditation. Sometimes I start my day with research. Sometimes I start my day with exercise. I don't like my day to be exactly the same. So I'm already finding tips and tricks that you're giving that I'm going to like find a way to get myself more consistent, but still not consistent in how I do it. But I did the 6 phase. I always give myself a while to try anything, right? If I'm right now, I'm doing automatic writing where I have to get up at a certain time and I have to do it every single day. And I'm doing it. I always commit to 6 weeks. And so I committed to the 6 phase meditation for 6 weeks. I did it every day for 6 weeks. And I forgot about it until I was talking to you on your podcast. And I was like, I literally am living the life that I wanted to live. And I forgot all about it, that I did my perfect day, right? And this is my perfect day. Like I'm living my perfect day. And I was just so blown away by that, right?
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy, right? Because for me, I did it like a long time ago, and that 3 years out, creating it all happened much better than I could have imagined. So I don't know if I just wasn't dreaming big enough, but there was just like, or you know what? I wasn't the person I am today at that point. So then when I redid it now, the dream is way bigger. And that's at 3 MIQs as well. But yeah, I did not know that. So the writing exercise, how you do that for 6 weeks, did you just start that, or how far are you into that process?
I haven't done it again. I'm gonna redo it. This was like 2 years ago. I did the 6 phase meditation for 6. Oh, the automatic writing. Sorry. Catching up. The automatic writing. So that is Michael Sandler. He wrote a book called that's Automatic Writing Experiment, I think it is. And so I am week 1 on that. And I did it before for 30 days. And I literally had an enlightened day. They say that you can get into this like really, really, really high conscious. I, I I just remember the day like nothing, it was 20 days in, and I walked around the zoo with my sister and her kids, and I saw every single person as if they were like pure love. I was just like walking around the zoo with this goofy grin on my face, and all I could see is everybody's heart and their love. And it was the most magical day. And that was from doing that for 30 days. And of course, then I had to switch my habit because I love that. And so I switched it. And so now I'm committing to my 6 weeks of the automatic writing, but I'm only week 1 in.
All right. So I talked about this earlier in this episode that there's something about around week 4 where you don't feel like doing it anymore, but keep doing it, because then week 5 and 6 become magical.
That's why I'm committing to 6 weeks now, because I was committed to 4 and then I just would give it up and do something else. And I didn't. Yeah. So yeah, that's something for, and this one I have to do. He wants you to do it first thing in the morning. So this is a non-negotiable that I do before I do anything. I just wake up, come straight downstairs. You do some breathing exercises for a few minutes, and then you kind of write your gratitude. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You can thank you, God, thank you, universe, thank you, angels, thank you, guides, thank you to all of your people. And then you just ask a few questions and automatic write on them for a few minutes. It's a really beautiful practice, but yeah, I'm really bad at sticking to things, even if they work. I'm like, okay, where's my next exciting thing to try?
Yeah, it's important not to switch ship too much, because then we never get far, right? What
Yeah.
happens is that there's this resistance at the 4-week period. And it's like, but if you know that that resistance is coming, and then you heard the story about the guy looking for gold in the darkest hour before the dawn, then you know that if the resistance is coming, okay, here it is. I knew you were coming. I can't wait till you're gone in a week, because the beauty is right there.
Yeah. The funny thing is, for me too, resistance shows up very quickly. So anytime I decide that I'm going to meditate, my 10-year-old son will literally get up in the middle of the night and wake me up. And then I'm like, I'm not getting up to meditate today because I'm so tired every single time. And so I finally had to commit over, I was like, every time I decide I'm going to meditate at 5 a.m., he wakes me up every time. I don't even say it out loud, right? I just decide and he wakes me up. And so I'm like, okay, that's resistance. That's like, see if you're going to do it anyway, right? See if you're going to show up anyway. And so, yeah, now it's been a week and he's only woken me up twice. So I've moved through the resistance. But yes, no, I love that. And I do hope that people kind of, yeah, check out your site, check out all that you offer, and really do some of those free gifts that you have on your website, and just try out kind of getting a plan. Some people aren't very good at getting plans, and I'm like the worst, right? I am the worst, but it is so fruitful when you do, right? Even if in human design, we have this thing where we look at the arrows. And if you look at the arrows, there's 4 arrows. The bottom right arrow talks about whether you're a specific manifestor or non-specific manifestor. So if it goes to the left, you're specific and you should have very detailed, right? If it goes to the right, you're non-specific. And then you want to know how you want to feel in your day. And I'm non-specific. And so even though I'm non-specific, and even though I'm very mutable, and even though I have all of these things that maybe would say that I shouldn't be like you, right? Be so focused and whatever. There is so much gold to be found by still using your tools and the things that you talked about today, but maybe making tiny little tweaks. Like, it's okay if I don't have exactly my 5-year plan down to, very distinct goals, but I can know how I want to feel in my life. I can know how I want to feel in my day. I can know how I want to feel in my body, and I can make goals around that. So it's just something for people to think about as well, is even if you're very resistant like I am, there's such gold here to kind of put these things in place.
Yeah, I totally agree. And that's the idea, is to just create the evidence of what you want and make it your own. And that's why there's so many different people doing the same thing, is because they have their own way of doing it. So I'm the first guy to say, look, whatever I'm teaching, I'll say, you're going to hear a lot of things today. And if something doesn't feel good, get rid of it. Don't think about it. But if something resonates, grab onto that, pull on that string, because it's something there. And so I'm purposely giving you tons of different information so that you don't like some of it, because it's not for you, it's for her or him. Right. But
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. And that's exactly it. I sometimes I make little things where I talk about, maybe this is more of a manifestor thing, or this is more of a generator thing, but you don't even have to know who you are. You just have to be tapped in, tuned into yourself and what really feels good for you. Because a lot of times we look out at the world and we think, I should be this or I should be this. And there really is no should. Everybody is perfect. Even though you maybe share your cross with a lot of different people, the way that it's structured, you're showing up exactly as you, right? There's nobody else that's going to be you, that's going to be timed or have the different backgrounds that you have. And so when we all show up exactly how we're supposed to be, like, magic ensues. Like, you being you made this conversation, that me being me, and all of the people that are listening, like, figure out who you want to be and what you want to create. And if tools like astrology and human design are helpful, go check them out, because that's what helped me. Or, reading some of the great offer. Even if you go to your website, your Instagram, you have like book ideas, you have all kinds of resources there. And so go there and get excited. Listen to some of the guests on your show too, and get excited about what the possibilities for your life are.
Yeah, thank you for that. I appreciate all the kind words.
Yeah, no, you really inspire me to keep doing what I'm doing. And I knew this was going to be such a fun conversation. I love that you always know the quotes, and you are ready for any direction we're going to take this, because you've really immersed yourself in it. And so this was so much fun for me. Thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you. And I appreciate what you're doing. Keep it up.
Thank you. Can you just drop, for anybody that wants to check out more of your information, where they can go? I'll put it in the show notes, but you can just say it real quick.
Yeah, the website is the nextstepsacademy.com, on Instagram at Next Steps Academy, or on Instagram at the Phase 4 #4 podcast.
Yes. Check out his podcast. Check out all of JP's wonderful, wonderful things. And everybody have a wonderful new year, because we're going to drop this right before the new year.
Thank you.